Hello, everyone. This is Mike Heath from the Coalition for Children, Youth, and Families, welcoming you all to our last recording on recruitment teams and recruitment plans. So thank you for joining us today. If you could go to the next slide, please, Julie. So again, this is our week 4, and Julie and I appreciate, and Sharon appreciate you guys tuning into all of these discussions, and we look forward to meeting with you and having an interactive discussion afterward. And we have a nice selfie here of Julie Wallace and myself. I'm the peanut butter guy on your left, and Julie is the jelly person on the right. So welcome again. Thank you for your host for this discussion. So again, our topic of discussion is going to be on recruitment teams, the importance of recruitment teams, as well as recruitment plans. So with recruitment teams, we're going to talk about, the makeup of your teams, provide some examples of who would be beneficial to invite to be a part of your team. And then with the plan, we're going to really talk into detail about what's important to develop your agency's individualized recruitment plan, because your recruitment plan is probably going to be looking different than a neighboring county or a neighboring agency's plan, because it's going to be yours, it's going to be unique. But it's important that you have a plan so that you have a focus on what you want to achieve as a recruitment team in terms of recruiting foster parents going forward. So we all know, and we've talked about this in previous sessions, that as foster care coordinators, as licensing workers at your agency, you are all extremely busy people. You have a lot of responsibilities. You're juggling a lot of roles, a lot of responsibilities, and recruitment and support and development of your foster parents simply cannot be a one-person responsibility. And so that's why it's important for your agency to welcome and bring on other individuals from your agency and from your community that can join and be a part of developing a recruitment team to help get more foster parent resources for your agency. There's so many advantages of bringing a recruitment team together. You're bringing a diverse team that's going to be bringing new ideas, new insights, new collaborations, new connections to community resources that maybe you are not aware of, but a member of your recruitment team could be a vital person to build that bridge and form that connection. And as we know, the more people that you have on your team, the more that workload and responsibility can be shared among the recruitment team. At the coalition, we recommend that if a supervisor at your agency can be a part of your team, that would be optimal. And we understand that supervisor schedules are very busy as well. So if your supervisor isn't able to be a part of the recruitment team, if they can be supportive of that recruitment team, because we know oftentimes a supervisor, the management team, needs to sign off on recruitment events or different activities. So it's vital that the management team is supportive of your recruitment efforts. If they can be a part of your recruitment team, phenomenal, wonderful. And if they're not able to be a part of the team, if they can at least be aware of what your activities are and support you, we think that's a great way to move forward. And the other thing that's really important with a recruitment team at your agency is your entire agency will be made aware of the importance of recruitment. It's going to put recruitment on their radar. And that is why, as you're thinking about who you want to invite to your recruitment team, inviting folks from the Child Protective Service unit or inviting folks from other units at your agency that may be directly or indirectly connected to foster care is going to be important, because again, they're going to bring new ideas, new perspectives, new resources. And so the more folks you can get involved in your recruitment team, the better. And then you can also invite outside community folks to be part of your recruitment team, again, for that networking, that collaboration, and working together as a team is going to be really important. And then that accountability factor, that everyone on that recruitment team, you're going to be meeting on a frequent, consistent basis, providing updates, making plans for upcoming recruitment events, and providing updates. There's going to be that accountability factor as well that you'll be able to utilize going forward as a team. So as I was describing, I know many folks that are viewing this right now fall into the foster care coordinator, licensing worker at your agency. But again, to invite other folks from your agency, from other departments, or the child welfare staff, the supervisors, as I discussed, other agencies that either indirectly or directly related to foster care, the more, the better. I think that's going to be really important for your agency, whether it's a private agency, a county agency, or a tribal agency. The more diversity, the more folks that you can invite to the recruitment team, the better the potential outcomes are going to be. Because remember, as you all are well aware, the more quality foster parent resources that you're able to recruit for your agency is going to help make sure that the children and youth that are in care are going to have the most successful and positive outcomes. And so as a team, you're going to be able to potentially recruit more of those quality foster parents to make sure that the children and youth that are in care are getting the quality care that they deserve and need.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Let's move on to faith-based groups as a potential resource for your recruitment team members. Some of the advantages here that we mention are motive. This very first one, predisposed to serving the community. When we talked in our first recording about looking at motives of people who are prospective foster parents, we talked about the altruism motive, rather than people being looking for people who are interested in having children in their home for their own self-interest. We're looking for folks who have altruistic motives. They want to serve their community. They want to serve families. They want to serve children. And by the same token, faith-based communities, they already have that predisposition to altruism and serving. So those folks are going to make potentially great recruitment team members. And when you're looking at a faith-based group, you've got a whole congregation there that you could potentially tap into for a recruitment team member. One of the easy ways to identify a faith-based group is by looking at your current pool of foster families. Lots of foster parents are members of faith-based groups, and so you can easily identify a group that you might tap into. And there, it might not be just the foster family that could potentially be a recruitment team member, but someone in that entire congregation might be interested. And then when you develop that partnership with a faith-based group by having a member of their congregation on your team, that just builds in that automatic opportunity to partner with that group on your recruitment events that you plan. One thing we've recognized is that many faith-based groups do have foster care ministries in place. And so that would be an easy, low-hanging fruit in terms of identifying a group in your community. If a group already has that effort ongoing, they're going to be an easy match for you in terms of recruiting team members. Opportunities to recognize and engage members who are already fostering. As I mentioned, you probably have current foster families who are part of faith-based groups. And by having a team member present in your agency working on recruitment, that just gives you another opportunity to recognize those folks at that faith-based group who are already fostering, and then connecting with other potential foster families when in your recruitment activities. And then, of course, faith-based groups have facilities, they have space, they have staff, they have, again, congregations who can potentially serve as partners in recruitment events. Like, for example, a community-based space for holding informational meetings. You know, most people in communities are aware of where those churches and faith-based groups are housed, so that makes it an easy pick for hosting something like an informational meeting. And then again, other types of partnering events like, you know, supplies drives, clothing drives, events for fundraising. All of those things are just natural partnering topics for faith-based groups. So having a member of one of these groups on your team is just going to provide that much more access. Okay, and then when we think about business partners, folks that work in local businesses are really naturals for your recruitment team because they are going to, again, provide a connection to groups in your community that you can use for your targeted recruitment. Even if it's not a business that's traditionally family oriented, if you get a business, a recruitment team member from a local business who can partner with you on in other ways, this is going to be just a natural advantage for your team to have someone like this on board. As we look at the advantages, you've got, again, potential for reaching your targeted audience. Maybe you've got a business that is family oriented, and we'll talk more about what those might be later in this presentation, but that just provides an easy avenue for your targeted recruitment events. Business partners can potentially co-sponsor events or co-fundraise with you. You've got an automatic outlet for displaying your recruitment materials. You can put up posters there. If they've got a website where they're willing to post the recruitment messages that you're trying to get out into the community, that's a natural partnership. In the recruitment team that I was serving on when I worked for a county, we had an individual from a business who had marketing and promotion expertise. That was their role that they played in the business. And so that was a natural for us to include them on our team so that they could bring those skills to the table. Donations. I mean, if you've got a recruitment team member who is part of a business, you might have a better opportunity to do some fundraising with that particular business or utilizing the type of business operation that they have in your community. And then discounts for foster families, that might be a natural progression by having a business team member on your team. The businesses, of course, can benefit from having involvement with your recruitment team. They're going to get more perhaps advertising and acknowledgement and free promotion in the messaging that you put out into the community. You might be able to include their business logo in your materials. They're creating this persona in the community that they have altruistic motives as part of their business plan and business messaging. They may be able to generate news business with the activities that you do as part of your recruitment plan. And then potentially foster youth who are looking for employment, that could potentially be another connection that is an incentive for a business partner. And so we just wanted to provide some possible examples for family-friendly organizations or businesses where you could look for recruitment team members, healthcare facilities, domestic violence shelters, housing agencies. All of these community-oriented organizations are going to be just a natural place to look for recruitment team members. And then if we want to think about businesses, Any family-friendly business could be another potential partner. We might think about restaurants, movie theaters, sports facilities, sports teams. Any of those types of businesses might be potential sources for recruitment team members, but of course you can expand beyond that. If you've got big businesses in your area, that would be a natural source to tap into for potential recruitment members. We do want to emphasize libraries as a great resource, not only for recruitment team members, but just in general, partnering with libraries is a great idea because they've got the space that's very community oriented and known to the public. They've got places to post things on bulletin boards and websites where you can potentially get a PSA out there. And then the staff is very community oriented, and they may have space for you to use for informational meetings, all kinds of resources that could potentially happen with libraries. And then when we think about small rural counties and agencies, they may not have huge pools of organizations or businesses available for recruitment team members. And we just want to encourage the idea of collaborating with neighboring small counties or small agencies within your county, because the benefits are all there. You not only have a bigger pool of people to recruit team members from. When you collaborate on events, you're bringing your foster families together. You have the opportunity to potentially share resources around recruitment and retention. You're spreading out responsibilities for your team members amongst more folks and getting a more diverse set of ideas by collaborating with neighboring agencies. So that's something that we really encourage not only small agencies to do, but any agency or county around the state can benefit from collaboration. And then we encourage you to tap into community leaders for your recruitment team. Some examples: child welfare associations, business councils, clergy associations. We really like to hear when folks tap into that for recruitment team members, because then you're getting the message out through those folks to all the faith-based groups in your community. Elected officials, politicians, that's a natural. If that would clearly spread the word about your need for recruitment and more foster families if you've got a politician or an elected official on your team, and civic organizations, all areas that you can tap into for team members. And then I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Julie. And then your foster parent champions. I think everyone that's watching us right now is aware that the coalition, we're going to be providing a separate training for your foster parent champions, a virtual training half a day coming up. And we're going to talk with them in further detail, providing them with resources of how they can be an advocate for recruitment and an advocate for your agency and getting the word out. But there's definitely advantages to inviting your foster parent champions to be a part of your team, your recruitment team. As we all know, foster parents can speak from the heart. They can speak from their lived and living experience of being foster parents. And they have so much knowledge and so much insight that they can share. And there's so many ways that foster parent champions can help with recruitment events that you and your agency and your recruitment team are planning, such as any type of targeted events in the community. Anytime you can invite a foster parent champion to be a part of that with you, that's going to bring credence to your recruitment efforts and allow prospective foster families to ask questions of your foster parent champions. And so it's important that before you go on to any of those type of events, that you make sure that your foster parent champions are prepared with information to share with these prospective families and provide information about how they can get started or how they can attend an upcoming information meeting, those type of things. But that's really important to consider, to include. We've talked about this in previous discussions with all of you. Anytime you can include a foster parent champion in any type of event, that's going to be really helpful. And sometimes your foster parent champions, they can take on a variety of different roles, that perhaps they can be part of your information meeting itself, and then they can be part of that presentation and speak from the heart and from their lived experience about what fostering is and what it entails. And any type of like foster care month activities, as we have listed here, that are coming up that you're planning, they can be a part of that as well. And then again, that whole collaboration that Julie was just describing and discussing, when you think about your foster parent champions, think about all the different folks that they have connections to, whether that's through their faith-based community or through their employment, through their family, their friends, their sphere of influence, folks that they can get the word out that your agency is looking for foster parents and letting them know how they can get started and who they can contact. So there's a variety of different benefits to including your foster parent champions with your team, as well as in your recruitment activities. Former foster youth. And again, this we understand, Julie and I and Sharon, we know that sometimes it can be difficult to be in contact with a former youth that was in care. But we also know that there's workers that are able to maintain a connection with a former youth that was in care. And again, who better to help promote foster parenting, and who better to know what the positive qualities that make up a quality foster parent are than youth that have formerly been in foster care. So if you can connect with a former youth that has been in care, and invite them to events, invite them to speak. And again, same thing as for your foster parent champions, you'll want to help prepare them with some talking points and consistent messaging, but let them speak about the realities of foster care, because that is really important. And they're going to be genuine, they're going to be authentic, just like your foster parent champions are genuine and authentic and relatable. And sometimes it's really helpful, as we all know, when a former youth in care is involved in a recruitment event, that they can speak from the heart, as we had mentioned, and they can really share their experiences. Now, in the state of Wisconsin, there are youth advisory councils. So there's 7 different chapters throughout the state of Wisconsin, and then there's also a statewide Youth Advisory Council. So the reason we wanted to share this resource with you about the Youth Advisory Council is oftentimes this group, which is made up of current youth in care as well as former youth in care all the way up to age of 26. They're a very active group on the state level as well as the local level. And this group, the Youth Advisory Council, the participants, they are always looking for opportunities to talk to either prospective foster parents or talk to your agency, in a panel presentation about foster care and about what their experiences were like. And again, so if you're not able to identify a former youth in care to assist in your recruitment efforts, feel free to reach out to Julie, Sharon, or myself, and we can connect you with the folks at the Department of Children and Families that run and coordinate the Youth Advisory Council. And they can put you in touch with either a local chapter or in contact with the state chapter. What's important is if you ever do choose as an agency to utilize the resources from participants of the Youth Advisory Council, that your agency compensate the youth and the young adults for their time, effort, and energy. We all know how it can be a struggle for former youth in care, and for these youth that are committing their time and energy to the Youth Advisory Council. If you can compensate them for their time and energy, that would be greatly appreciated. And again, reach out to Julie, Sharon, or myself, and we can connect you to that great group. So preparing your team. You heard us talk about, agency messaging, talking points, preparation. Again, when your team has a plan in place, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit further. We're actually going to share some samples of some recruitment plans and some activities with all of you. Again, when your agency decides as a team to implement your recruitment plan, you're going to make that specific to your agency and to your needs. But it's important that you have specific information about your agency and those talking points. And that's something when you meet and convene as a recruitment team that you can discuss and put on the agenda and prepare to make sure that the mission of your agency and the mission of your recruitment team is at the forefront. And for your foster parent champions or youth in care or maybe community members and aren't as familiar with your agency, that they at least have some information about letting folks know about how they can attend an information meeting and what are some of the general requirements to becoming a foster parents. So I think that's something really important that Julie and I and Sharon wanted to reinforce. But in FAQs, frequently asked questions, that is something your recruitment team could put together that could be part of your planning process, again, as a tool, as a resource for all members of your recruitment team so that they are prepared when they go out in the community, whether that's in person or that's virtually, that they'll have those frequently asked questions and those talking points, and so that they will be feeling confident that they will be able to answer that question. And if they're not able to answer the question, that they can direct them back to you as the foster care coordinator or licensing worker or agency, or they can encourage them to attend an upcoming information meeting where those questions can be answered in great detail.
Okay, so putting it all together with recruitment teams. We've stressed this over and over and over, and we just can't stress it enough that recruitment cannot be just a foster care coordinator. We know that that is the case often when you're starting out with recruitment, but we really want to encourage you, even if it's a somewhat informal basis in your agency, if you can get some support by having a team. But we really would prefer that you have a formal arrangement where you have a team that meets regularly, that you have a diverse group of people on your team, that you are coming up with a plan, which we're about to talk about, that you have accountability and timelines for your team, and that all of this is designed to just make you more effective, right? It's to make you more effective and to make this as painless as possible, because we know you're busy. We know that recruitment, retention are activities that are very time consuming, and they really can't afford to be put at the bottom of the pile. So this is where a team is just critical. And we love talking about this with supervisors and agencies, because we know that you do need that support from management, from supervisors. And we are here to promote this idea all over the state. So let us know if you need some support around that. That's just something that we do as part of our recruitment consultation. And so we're going to talk about plans now. And as Mike said, we'll provide some examples, but let's just talk for a moment about the basics, about the key principles on recruitment plans. First of all, it's going to be a living document. It's not a one and done kind of thing. You're not going to write out a plan and then throw it in a folder and stick it in a drawer and not look at it again. You constantly need to be revisiting your plan, tweaking it, putting down what's been successful, and then reorganizing and coming up with a new focus. The plan will be data driven. So all of those things that we talked about in the very first recording in terms of gathering data about the children coming into care, as well as what are the characteristics of your rock star foster families, that all needs to be incorporated into your plan. Where do we need to focus recruitment efforts based on where kids are coming from and being placed in out-of-home care? Is it a specific community? Is it a specific neighborhood? You know, who are the children? What are their ages? What are the special needs? All of these things need to be gathered prior to you preparing your recruitment plan. And then you do need to be strategic, because all of the ideal things that Mike and I talk about throughout this recruitment training program are all wonderful and effective and valuable, but let's face it, you can't do it all. So you're going to need to be strategic and focus in on one or two things that you can start with next month, or in the next 3 months, or in the next 6 months, to get things off the ground and rolling. So you are going to need to focus your efforts. And the purpose of the plan is to really be that foundation to guide your work. It's easy to sit in a meeting and everybody throw ideas out and think that you've come up with something that you're excited about and moving forward, but we always want you to come back to your plan and decide, is this activity that we just talked about, does it fit into the big scheme of things? Is it strategic? Is it going to have a measurable effect? And then you want your plan to communicate your values, your priorities, and your strategies. You want the plan to be an outgrowth of all of the things that we've talked about to this point. It needs to be integrated, it needs to make sense, and it needs to be able to communicate what you're doing to folks outside your team. So your child welfare staff and the rest of the agency would benefit from knowing what your plan is and how it fits into the strategy that you've developed. And then you will need to have some actual timelines and goals that will be measurable. So that's something that we'll talk about in a little bit. We can't stress enough that a written plan is valuable. It can be easy to fall into the habit of just talking at each meeting about what you're planning to do and then going out and doing it. But if you're forced to put it on paper and really look at the analysis of how this plan works with your data, with your goals, with the team members that you have, with the agency, and all of the realities of funding and time and all of that, if it's written down, you're going to have a much better chance at success. You're going to be able to gauge your progress. You're going to be able to keep all of your values in your data, your mission in front of you. You're going to be discussing the relevant topics in your team meetings rather than getting off on a tangent, maybe getting lost out there on a topic or a plan that doesn't fit in with your overall goals. And then of course it aids in accountability. And so these are the things that should be included in your plan. You really want to come up with stated objectives. It seems obvious, but when you actually start looking at how many homes do we actually need? How many kids do we expect are going to be coming into care? Who are those kids? And what exactly are we looking for? Are we looking for homes that need sibling groups? Are we looking for homes that need expertise around neonatal abstinence syndrome? Do we need homes for teens? So when you can really narrow that down, you need to put those specific objectives in your plan and the specific action steps. And you'll see all this when we show you some examples. You want to decide who's going to do what. We've heard over and over that so often the foster care coordinator ends up being responsible and accountable for so much of what goes on with recruitment. Here's your opportunity to really spread it out and identify individuals who are going to take pieces and components of that plan and be responsible for those pieces. Timelines. When are you going to start this? When is it going to be complete? We know that this is all going to be in flux, but if at least you have it written down, this gives you a chance to identify, do things take longer than we originally thought? Should we be stretching our timelines out 6 months rather than thinking we're going to get all these things done in the next 6 weeks? That's all a valuable part of having a written plan. And then we really encourage you, once you have a recruitment or retention event, to really come back and write out what happened. Was it successful? And if so, why? If you had challenges, what could potentially have been the reason for those challenges? And that will help you tweak your plan as you move forward. And so again, step one, gathering your data. I mean, it's very tempting to skip over this, but we really encourage you to have a procedure in place for analyzing who are the kids coming into care in your community, what are the needs, are they sibling groups, and really writing out and analyzing the needs of the kids coming into care. And same thing with your exceptional foster families. What are their characteristics? Where did you find them? How did you recruit them? How did they happen to land in your lap and get developed as rock star foster families? All of that needs to be incorporated into your plan so that you can really target your efforts appropriately. And so we've talked about messaging. That needs to be part of your plan as well. What is the message you're taking out into the community? How are you going to motivate people to think about fostering? What is the need in your community? Why is it important that you have foster families in your local area? You know, what are the stats around that? You want to talk about how it's so much easier for kids to be reunified if they're placed in a family that is within your regional boundaries. When kids have to travel far away, it delays reunification. So what are the messaging components that you really need to have emphasized as you put your plan together? And then what will be the marketing tools that you use? You know, we traditionally think about those physical items like brochures. You know, a couple of years ago, we had mirror clings that we offered. We always have flyers to send out to you all, and maybe you have developed your own swag or brochures or materials that you use in marketing. But we also want to encourage you to go beyond those physical items like yard signs and posters and think about social media materials. As Mike has mentioned before, we have a number of videos available on the FCARC website that are available for you to use. Think about incorporating the materials into your recruitment plan. How do you plan to use them, and what will be the way in which you get your message across? And then we encourage you to have that very succinct message that all of your staff in child welfare and even beyond, you know, in the agency could utilize when they're out in the community and someone approaches them about becoming a foster parent. Have that 3 to 5 bullet point speech ready for folks to use so that you can be effective in the community at a moment's notice. And then we've talked about teams all in the first part of this recording. Who will be on your team? What role do you want them? What role would you like each team member to play? Because you really do want to focus on folks' strengths. You know, not everybody wants to get up and speak in front of a group at an information meeting. Not everybody feels comfortable having a radio interview or doing a PSA or being interviewed by a newspaper reporter. You want to identify those people that are comfortable with that and making that part of your plan. You know, who will be doing what? Maybe those folks that have more organizational skills will be tasked with managing that aspect of your recruitment plan. So lay that all, put that all on paper. And then, you know, it's easy to think about recruitment plans as just focusing on recruitment events, because that's really what we think about when we think about recruitment, right? But we really want to encourage you to have as part of your plan these components, your response system. Once you do get people calling or showing up on your doorstep, what is your plan for responding to them? How do you get the packet of paperwork, or how do you follow up with a phone call? What is the message that they're hearing when they contact reception? And really analyze your response system and how effective it is, so that that can be part of your plan. If you need to beef that up, then just put that right in your plan. Number 4, quality customer service. Is that an agency-wide principle? And if it currently is not, maybe the very first thing that you want to put on your plan is, hey, we need to have a training. We need to have an all staff where everybody in our agency is understanding the importance of treating foster parents like gold, and, you know, being there to support them the moment they make contact with our agency. So that can be part of your recruitment plan, your response system. Same thing with support and development. How are you supporting existing foster families, you know, where they live? We rely on our foster care coordinators to do that, but again, this can be a team activity. What are some ideas that foster parent champions are bringing to the table in terms of support and development of existing families? put those items right in your recruitment plan. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you, Julie. And the other thing that we want to make sure that we emphasize, when you're developing your recruitment plan, that it's important that when you're starting to develop goals, that they're realistic and obtainable. So in other words, if you say we want to reach out to every faith-based congregation in Marathon County, I have no idea how many that would end up being, but I know it would be a lot. And so, like Julie had shared before during this presentation, set a couple goals, a couple tangible and obtainable goals that you as a team can work together. And then the other thing that we want to emphasize that's important when you reach those goals, that you as a recruitment team, that you celebrate those accomplishments, because recruitment work is not easy. We all know that. And so when you do have success, when you do have an event where there's families that are coming and signing up or attending information meetings, make sure you as a team recognize that and celebrate that. But again, realistic, obtainable goals. So on the slide here, you can see a number of homes to be added as a potential goal. And again, don't shoot for the moon, because it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to recruitment. But what realistically, maybe again, looking at data, look back the last 3 to 5 years, what has been on the number of homes that you've been able to license, and what would be a realistic goal for the upcoming year that you feel as an agency and as a recruitment team that you could achieve. And the types of homes, Julie had talked about that in detail, making sure that you're focusing your recruitment team's attention in the recruitment plan on those specific targeted goals, so that you're really targeted on what type of homes that you would like to recruit and license as resources for children that are coming into care. So again, this is just kind of, a continuation of, not setting 20 goals, because 20 is too much, but 1 to 5 specific goals that you as a recruitment team can kind of, discuss, agree upon, put down. And as Julie had described, that everybody has their responsibilities of what and ownership of what they need to help with and to make those successful. But, write those down and make sure that your recruitment team, they have the resources that they need. Make copies of your recruitment plan so that they have them. We know that in the past, agencies have created recruitment binders. So, do a 3-hole punch and put the plan in there, put some resources in that binder, put talking points in that binder. So that's a tangible resource that every member of your recruitment team can take with them when they go to recruitment events, and help them prepare for those events prior to going, by looking at their recruitment binder. And continually, as you meet as a recruitment team, revisit some of these things and find out maybe there's some additional resources that need to be added as resources for everybody, a part of your recruitment team, to make sure that the recruitment plan can be successfully implemented. So just a few ideas we wanted to share. And then the next couple slides, Julie and I are going to be sharing, some samples of recruitment plans. So this is example number 1. And as Julie had talked about previously, it's not always going to be about recruitment specific goals. This is an example of you as a foster care coordinator, you're looking to identify, if you haven't already, some foster parent champions at your agency that can be those outstanding spokespeople and that can go out in the community or get the message out in one way, shape, or another about the need, importance, and necessity of foster parents. So this could be your action step that you want to identify the foster parent champions, who's going to be responsible, who's that responsible person, when it's going to be, when your anticipated goal is going to be reached, what type of resources are needed, and then, eventually what the outcome was. How did it go, and how did things work out in terms of coming up with foster parent champions. So that's an example, the first example we wanted to share with you about something even outside of the boundaries of recruitment itself. It's identifying your recruiter advocates, your foster parent champions, your rock star families. They're going to assist you and your team to get that message out. So we'll go on to example number 2. Here's another example. We had talked earlier about faith-based communities. As you can see, it doesn't say 200 places of worship. It says 3, and it has a specific zip code that is listed in the action step item. And who, in this case, it's not just one person, it's a couple folks. It's the foster care coordinator and the foster parent champion are going to reach out to 3 places of worship in this specific zip code by this specific date. And then the next column, what resources, in this particular plan, recruitment plan, there's going to be flyers, and it's got a very specific focus, as we talked about earlier, teen homes. And so that's the resources that's going to be needed. And then the outcome, how did it go, and was it successful? And then you can build upon that. As Julie had mentioned previously, this is a working document, a fluid document that you're going to continue to revisit and update and continue to set goals. So that's our second example. And here's a third example of, attending, again, not 20 resource fairs, but 2. Two seems reasonable. That seems manageable. Again, that's just an example for your agency. If you're a foster care coordinator and a kinship care provider and a CPS worker and an intake, person, in addition to other responsibilities at your agency, maybe 1 family themed resource fair would be more applicable. But if you're an agency that you're able to attend a few more, great. But again, realistic, obtainable goal for your specific agency. Julie and I, we're going to leave that up to your agency, and when we meet in person, we're going to talk in further detail and provide some assistance around developing recruitment plans, and they are going to be individualized. But as we go through the timeline, again, the resources, what's going to be needed, brochures, again, as Julie had mentioned, contact the coalition. We can provide those resources for you. In this case, interest postcards and other promotional items. So that's listed specifically. And then the outcome, how did it go? You always want to report out at the end of your goal and then have that discussion with your recruitment team, because maybe you have to tweak or, change things a little bit going forward, depending on how things went. And here's another example. So, the business partners, we talked about that previously, that that's an important component of your recruitment plan, bringing on that diverse group of individuals, folks from outside of the child welfare system, business partners and collaborations working together. And so that is something that you're going to determine as an agency, who's going to be responsible. In this example that we're sharing, it's an all program staff. Each staff person is going to identify at least 1 person, and then the foster parent champion is going to reach out and make contact and follow up. So it's definitely a bigger goal of reaching out to many folks. But in order to reach out, you need a contact person. And then you can provide that information to the foster parent champion, who's going to have kind of some talking points and be able to have those resources to start that plan. We have a timeline again, and resources. I just mentioned that. I was ahead of myself. Cheat sheet, stated needed, what your goals are, and the benefits to the business and the benefits for the community, benefits for youth, benefits for families. If we can keep families and children connected, that's what our goal is. And that's why we need the support and the buy-in and the collaboration from our community advocates, our community champions. And then again, what were the outcomes? Who signed on board to be part of your recruitment team? And then as an agency, it's not listed on this slide, but how you as an agency can thank those community champions and those community partners for their involvement. That's really important to do, as you all know. So again, that's something you can discuss as a recruitment team, different ways that you can show your appreciation and acknowledge their support, because you're going to need their support to help you all with your recruitment plans to be as successful as possible. So Julie and I, we've shared a lot of information. That this is kind of a encapsulation of all the, recruitment plan, recruitment team, putting it all together. It's not one person, as we've shared multiple times during this discussion with you. It's not just the foster care coordinator, it's the recruitment team. You as an agency are going to determine what how your team is made up, who's going to be invited to be a part of that team. Again, we can't emphasize the diversity and getting as many folks on this recruitment team as possible. Getting the support from your management team is crucial and critical. Setting those realistic and obtainable goals. We've mentioned that's a living document. It's a blueprint. Think of that as, when you're, the visual building a house, you need to have a blueprint. You need to know what's needed. Same thing with a recruitment plan. You need to start at the beginning of developing who's going to be a part of your team. And then when you gather your team, setting those goals, setting those up, realistic, obtainable goals, and then assigning folks out for the different responsibilities, and then making sure that with your recruitment plans that they are going to reflect your agency's values and your mission statement, because that's key and important, because you're going to be building collaborations internally and externally with all your partners outside of your child welfare agency. And then we talked about data, data. We can't emphasize that enough as well. Making sure that you're incorporating that into your recruitment plan, and that you're specific and targeted when you're writing your recruitment plan, so that you can be as successful as you can, so that you can recruit the homes that you need to support the children that are either in care right now, or like Julia and I had mentioned, are going to be coming into care, so you're prepared. So it's definitely a strategic approach, not a one-person responsibility, but a recruitment team, plural. And that's why we appreciate all of you being a part of this recruitment series. And we really look forward to having the interactive discussion coming up. And then after that, then we're going to get together virtually and have an interactive discussion where we're going to kind of go over all these key concepts and help, like I said, help you all create your own unique recruitment plan for your agency, or at least the starting point of creating that. So thanks again for your time of watching this presentation today from Julie and myself. Our contact information for Julie, myself, and Sharon at the coalition, our recruitment team, is on the page here. So feel free to send us an email. We are here to support you not only throughout this recruitment series, as we've talked about, but beyond. So just know that we're here to support your agency in any way that we can, because we want to help you in any way that we can as an agency, to help your agency be successful in your recruitment efforts. So thank you on behalf of the coalition for spending time with us this afternoon.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.